in meat-eating cultures around the world, people tend to have a tiny handful of animals out of thousands of possible species that they've learned to classify as edible. All the rest we learn to classify as inedible and disgusting. And so even though the type of animal consumed changes from culture to culture, members of all cultures typically see their own choices as rational, and the choices of other cultures as irrational and often offensive to consume and disgusting. I want to talk for a minute about disgust. Anthropologists and psychologists have been investigating this phenomenon, and they found some really interesting things that go along with disgust, some really interesting ideas. Disgust is considered to be ideational. What this means is that we feel disgust not about what a food is, but about the idea of the food, the meaning of the food. In other words, people tend to be disgusted at the idea of either breathing in, orally incorporating, either eating or smelling something that they find to be morally offensive. So, and this is different from distaste. Distaste means we don't like the flavor of a food. Can you see the difference? Right? So this is why vegans, for instance, are disgusted typically by all flesh, and meat eaters are only disgusted by 99.9% of the flesh of animals. Disgust also is considered to be a moral emotion. It's morally charged. And it has what are called contamination properties. So to give you an example of what this means, let me ask you a question. Let's imagine that you are the diner in that video, and that your host serves you a beef stew. And you say, I'm sorry, I'm vegan. I don't eat beef. And the host says, oh, that's okay. Just pick out the beef and eat the vegetables around it. Would you do that? I mean, some people might if you don't have a strong disgust response, and some people don't, but many people would not. Do you think the diner would pick out the golden retriever? No, because disgust has what's called contamination properties. When somebody is disgusted by a food, an object, then everything it touches becomes disgusting as well. So if you are at somebody's house for dinner and they tell you to pick off the ham from the salad, and you say no, and they say, oh, you vegans, you're such a picky eater. You can say, no, if this were kitten, would you pick off the kitten and just eat the salad? Help them understand. Disgust is a bona fide psychological response. And I'm going to tell you one more point about disgust, but I want to use another example with this. Let's imagine that the diner was served not beef stew, but fruit salad. And let's say he's eating the fruit salad and he says to his host, this apple is so sweet. I've never had an apple so sweet before. What kind of apple is it? And the host says, well, it's not really an apple. It's actually a salak. It's an Indonesian fruit. It grows on a tree. It's like an apple, but it's a different kind of fruit. Do you think he would have said, that's disgusting. I can't eat that. That's not normal. Probably not. Why not? What's the difference between the apple and the golden retriever? Apple's a fruit. Disgusting objects are all animal products. Typically, they're animal products, except for like rotten vegetation. Psychologists have found that people tend to be disgusted by the idea of eating flesh and animal excretions, and that the plant products that disgust them are plants that are similar to or reminiscent of animal products. Like we say in English, mucousy. Does that word translate? Mucus?
Swampit.
Swampit?
Swampit.
Like okra, yeah. So the texture of vegetables that are slimy, for instance, like mucus.